Some rich guy was like, you know what I really would want? To have my TV come out of the ground and expand up to like 130 inches. And then somebody said, I can help you create that. Like this, I have an issue selling a whole house to people for $250,000, let alone one single TV. Now, I wouldn't bring it up to my customer. I would be actually embarrassed to go to my customer and be like, hey, how would you like when you're in-ground pool for a TV to pop out as cool as anything, kind of looks like a fan, and then it turns into a TV? And all you need to give me right now is $250,000. That's right, just $250,000. We're done. And then I would see swiftly, I would turn my back for a quick second and my ass would be kicked right out the door.
On this episode of ResiWeek, we talk cybersecurity, Snap One invests in the cloud, and CSeed's new display. All this and more on this episode of ResiWeek.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is ResiWeek, episode 386, Professional Grade. Welcome to this episode of ResiWeek. This is your weekly roundup of all the latest news and stories for the residential AV industry. I'm your host, Matt D. Scott for AVNation.tv, and this week, I'm pleased to be joined by two of my longstanding friends. First, we have the one and only Mr. Todd Puma. He's the president of the Source Home Theater and popping up in all your social feeds with guitars. So glad you have some in the background. How you doing, Todd?
I just want to make sure I kept the image going. I don't want to disappoint.
No, never. Then we have his good friend, my good friend, Mr. Mark Feinberg. He's the president of Home Theater Advisors. We've got the tri-state gentleman on today. How you doing, Mark?
Doing great, Matt. Thanks for having me on, man. Glad to hear you were rooting for Boston boy yesterday.
Yeah, you know what? Keegan is one of those guys that I've always rooted for, despite the fact he's from Boston.
Go Sox.
Well, he is. He's a huge Boston sports fan, which is great, and a pretty decent golfer. That's your hint if you didn't realize what we're talking about. All right, gentlemen, let's kick this off with a story that comes to us today from CE Pro. Cyber attacks are increasingly targeting small businesses. Some research from Black Fog has indicated primarily most of the outcomes of these attacks are a loss of customers due to service outages and a loss of customer data. Looks like 61% of small and medium-sized businesses reported being the victim of a cyber attack within the past year. Read through this report. They cover some pretty interesting stuff in here, including 39% of those companies that responded reported a loss of customer data from the attack. Now, again, they don't divulge what kind of data that is. If they're doing it properly, it's literally just going to be a list of customers. Hopefully there's nothing else in there. 87% of IT decision makers said that they experienced 2 or more successful cyber attacks within the past month, which is highly concerning. Todd, let me start with you on this. These are, medium to small businesses, the companies that were referenced in this report. There has been a big push from our industry for us as integrators to play in that SMB, that mid-size market, with obviously AV solutions as well as some networking solutions. When you see a report like this, is there a way that we can help businesses with these issues well, or all the while maintaining some level of security and limited liability for us?
That's actually a great question, Matt. And, when I was reading the article, I was thinking to myself as well, like, how can I assist other businesses not to be hit, with a cyber attack? Really what it comes down to is a lot of our manufacturers, like I use Arachnus, the Cisco, and the list goes on and on. They put more ways to deter the cybersecurity, but I don't think that based upon my knowledge and knowing networking, that I could really stop that from happening at this point in time based on today. But I probably am going to dig a little bit deeper into that because, number one, we should have any network more secure, especially that customers, a lot of my customers, they do stocks from home. So they're at liability for something happening to them, even though it's them only. They're their own business in a sense.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna dig a lot more into it.
Mark, when you see this, Todd mentioned, the a couple of the manufacturers that he's working with. I don't know as much about the offerings of the first one because we don't really play with them. But the second one he mentioned, and again, listen back if you want to know who it is, they offer a lot of solutions for these types of problems. But let's be really, really blunt about it. The best firewall that comes with, your generic router from any of these companies, it's going to be all right. It's not necessarily going to be great unless it's configured and managed in perpetuity. But more importantly, the majority of these attacks are from somebody clicking a bad link in an email, somebody opening something.
Mostly phishing.
So much of it is phishing, and it all gets wrapped up into regular cybersecurity and someone saying, I got hacked. Is there a way that we can leverage both our manufacturers, but also our potential clients to find a way to play in this space?
That's a great question. I mean, I'm similar to Todd. I don't play in that space today. I'm a little, honestly, nervous too for this reason. I partner with an MSP if we have a small business that wants network work. We don't do it ourselves. We have a partner that we bring in whose expertise is in commercial grade networking, and we do a lot of business class networking or I call professional grade, Arachnus, Ruckus, but more on the residential side. When we get to those small businesses that are medium-sized businesses that are looking for that next level of equipment and protection and peace of mind, it's just not where our expertise lays as a small company such as we are. So I've been partnering with, I found folks in my local market. We do a lot of their AV work. They do a lot of the MSP work. But to your point, it's phishing. I don't know to what extent the firewalls can prevent that. I don't have the knowledge to answer that really, but it's a lot of education. I mean, as a small business owner, I can't tell you how many bogus emails I get every single day telling me, with an invoice attached or a PO attached or,
click this link.
Exactly.
Someone's talking about you. Find out here.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, it's really education that not only do you know who sent it to you, but you got to look at the email address and say, is that really their email address or is it a spoof?
I personally don't like to get involved in that. Like, informing customers on their day-to-day lives. Hey, if you have an email and it says, don't open it. It's just, it's kind of like outside of what we do in a sense. We advise, but networking and security like that has never been really something that we have dabbled in to that extent.
So let me ask kind of both of you a question then before we move on. We've been told for years that we're supposed to own the network.
Right.
And I'll tell you this, because we do play in commercial networks. We do a lot of work with SMB and mid-sized corporate. Every single client that has ever been hit with a true cybersecurity hack, something where there was an actual issue that had to be directly dealt with. Each and every time it came from someone clicking something. Right. They never got targeted. They never got it. Like, it was vast, blanket stuff. And to Mark's point, we've always gone the route of trying to teach our customers, especially again, our SMB customers, hey, when you get an email that you haven't solicited, it's not from someone you know directly, or it doesn't look like something that you would expect from someone you know. Not only do you have to check the email address, you actually have to go check the header. And you got to open the actual file to look at the header and go, yes, that is the email, because the phishing is so stinking good. Should that fall under part of our quote unquote, we own the network?
For myself, and actually bringing that point across, is if we do turn to the customer and say we own the network, then technically own everything that comes after that at this point in time. But I'm kind of going to go into this kind of scenario. If someone gets into a car accident, is it the person or is it the car at that point? There's only so much we could control. Just like you stated, if someone's phishing and they're going into an email and we have the most secure network there is, and they click onto that. How are we going to stop that? Really, based upon my little bit of knowledge, isn't there software that's built into your computer supposed to stop those kind of engagements and give them a warning on what's about to occur versus the physical networking equipment? And I'm asking that question. I don't know.
You're so cute. No. No, perhaps. All right, gentlemen, let's move on to our next topic. This comes to us from Residential Tech Today. Snap One has invested in cloud infrastructure to improve their system reliability, from a good friend of the show, Mr. Jeremy Glowacki. They have accelerated investments into cloud infrastructure to provide greater value, efficiency, and operational reliability for their integration partners and clients. They're doing a ton of stuff here in their investment side into clouds, specifically to do a kind of a couple of things. Obviously, increase connectivity and processing power for like their overseas platform, but also to deliver faster connections between their app, the overseas servers, and trying to reduce latency for Alexa and Google Voice integrations. Mark, let me start with you on this, and kind of to dovetail into the previous conversation. They've also invested heavily in web application firewalls to try and improve backup, disaster recovery, etc. How much of this are we going to see on the front lines? Are you expecting to see from the investment? Do you expect to see a discernible difference in those voice integrations working faster? Do you expect to see more reliability in overseas and some of those other platforms? Is this one of those investments that you're actually going to see?
I mean, I don't know whether this falls under the same umbrella, but maybe a year, 18 months or so ago, they really had a big problem with false positives. A lot of alerts coming through that a system was offline and it wasn't, and chasing our tails trying to see what was going on.
Wait, they fixed that? Because I don't think they did.
Virtually no false. I honestly get virtually no false.
Whoever watching this, it's not fixed.
I get an occasional one here and there. It's like, one device is offline. I'm like, oh, well, client probably unplugged it, or, the TV went to sleep or something.
Or the software's not working.
Yeah. Exactly. But I've had very good experience with overseas. We're pretty reliant on it. That is the driver of our recurring revenue. We use Parasol for our 24/7 support, and that sits on top of overseas. And that's been it's been a pretty successful program for me over the last 2-3 years since I really started pushing hard on it. I think the uptake has been a little bit less sticky over the last, or sticky is the wrong word, but been a little bit harder to get people to sign up over the last year and a half. I think they're less likely to sign up for a recurring monthly payment. I think they're getting just fatigue of monthly charges. But I've seen improvement, and I would think we would continue to see it. If the voice assistants are quicker and speedier, if the connection from the Control4 app when you're remote and remoting into your home is faster, that's something clients want to see. And that was something that was improved about 2 years ago. It's dramatically faster with OS. I think it was OS 3 or 3.1 they did it.
You're talking about the back end, like to get into the system?
No, for an end user to use their app when they're
for
remote.
Customer facing.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yep. They really made that a lot faster. They made connecting for a dealer from Composer, which is the Control4 programming software. Connecting remotely is now a much faster process as well. So they've been making these improvements over the years. So I would think they would continue to go down that path. I don't know how much they've picked the low-hanging fruit and how much is really left, but I guess time will tell.
Yeah, that's a good point. Todd, I'm not going to shift away from this, but I'm going to ask you or get your insight on a little bit more of an overarching question about this. We're seeing, obviously this article is pointing to Snap One's investment in cloud, but we're seeing everyone having to invest heavily into cloud, whether it's Crestron, whether it's Panamax, it doesn't matter who, Lutron, everyone is having to increasingly up their game from a cloud basis, right? What we're doing through the cloud is requiring more resources, more investment, more time, etc. None of those price points are really coming down. If you're like, we use AWS fairly heavily internally for Omega. I'm not seeing like that price point has not dropped. It has just increased. We're spending more and more every month, and we're not necessarily doing more. It's just the costs keep going up. At what point do you think we're going to start seeing the monthly costs for using these services from these manufacturers start to jump? And then when we have to pass that on to our customers, what is that going to look like? Because that's coming down the pipe.
Oh yeah, it's right here. We're literally getting tickled with that at this point. It's coming very fast. Because you know what's happening right now, and I've been watching this for a long period of time. Listen, Oversee does a great job, and I use that as my platform, all kidding aside. That's what I'm constantly using. Yes, we got a lot of false alerts, but the software works. And at this point, what I'm waiting for is the first person to basically pop that bubble so every other manufacturer can come through. So now let's look at this. What's pinpointed. So Snap One winds up, selling to us for X amount of dollars. Now Crestron's going to come around the corner and do it for X amount more. Maybe Control 4, Savant. Then we're talking about more networking solutions that are going to start offering more cloud. And then you're not only increasing yourself based on Oversee, say $10 to $15 a month more, you're increasing yourself across the board for every single client base that you're dealing with, because most likely it's going to turn into licensing fees again. And they'll put some other terminology that'll be a little bit more quirky and won't be as offending to people. So, and we're just going to pay, and we're going to keep on paying. But the thing is going to happen with us now asking our customers how to pay for it. Are we going to go to our customers and selling them a package based on all these solutions and increase it? Or are we going to offer only the solutions through Oversee for everything, video, audio, networking, and the list goes on and on to save the cost? Now that's going to be based on dealer to dealer basis. But for myself, is what I like to do is if it's a recurring fee, then we have to offer the service contract. But for the first year, I put it into the product, the hardware cost.
Yeah.
And I'll discount it. I'm not going to put it on top of it. If a router is $399, I'm not going to charge $449. I'm going to put it in, give them a little bit of discount for the first year. Then from there, we inform them from day one what those fees are going to cost. Now, as Mark and Matt, you were saying, is at this point in time, people aren't as engaged in working with the service plans or maintenance agreements. They're kind of falling back from that. They rather have the service calls as needed. Some other customers that are more problematic and more of touchers and like to handle and touch things in the system, those people a lot of time do go for it because they understand that there's nonstop issues where it benefits them. But the majority of the client base is pulling away from them. They don't want insurance. That's what people keep on telling me is I don't want insurance. I just want a system that works. And when I need to get a maintenance, just like a car, get an oil change, I'll contact you. If I see something sluggish, I'll contact you. But that's still not going to stop them from billing us just because our flow has gotten less with the maintenance agreements. We're going to have to figure out very soon, because I believe this is the year that it's going to pop. And we're going to have to be dealing with all these recurring costs.
Let me pull that thread just for a second. My company has always taken the approach, because we're in the same boat. The majority of our customers don't want to take the extended, service plan, maintenance plan, recurring revenue plan. They don't seem to care. The ones that do through the pandemic, we lost 80% of them. They did not renew. We've essentially taken the approach a lot of times that we'll put those products in, and as long as we have consistent work with that customer, right? We do the basement, we do the living room. Next year we do outside, we do the garage, we do the office, whatever. As long as we're doing work for them every year, every 2 years, we'll keep a lot of that stuff rolling in the background, just because it makes our job easier.
Right. But you're not paying for it at this point.
Well, we're paying for it internally, but we're not billing the customer because they don't want to pay for it. But it does, in the long run, it makes our lives easier. Is that where you expect this to go? Do you expect it to become a cost of doing business?
I do. And that's kind of, you just said it. It comes down to the quality of life, right? Is this product, they know that it's made our lives easier. So if there's a situation, all we do is a click away and we take a look at what happens. And then if we have to resolve it, then we just go into the internal ports and we go do what we need to do. And for me, that's a huge value. And I don't want to have my quality of life changed at this point. So will I be paying additional fees for it? Yeah, I will. There's nothing that's going to stop me from doing that, unfortunately, or stopping me from accruing those payments, because the products I use are the products I use, and they're the ones who are going to come first with the agreements,
Mark, is there a way to, like, do you just, at this point, do you just roll in, that cost for 5 years on any decent sized project?
At this point, what we tell clients is, unless you're on a support plan, we can't log in remotely. We won't log in remotely. If you are not on the support plan and you need service, it has to be, we will respond to your emails and phone calls during business hours. It can take 5 to 10 days to get a tech on site. And there's no remote support unless you're on a support plan. So that's kind of how we're combating it. And that is encouraging people to go for it. We have a very, very basic $15 a month support plan. We range up to $150 a month. We have a very basic one that allows us to log in. And then there's a charge every time we log in remotely. But I think, maybe we have to change that pricing as, AWS costs go up and overseas costs go up. Yeah, we'll have to go out and have to figure out how to raise those prices or have people sign up for new plans or whatever. But that's how we're handling it at this point, is saying if you aren't on a support plan, you can't get remote support.
Right. That's a good point. All right, let's hit our last topic of the day because it's cute. This comes to us from CE Pro C Seeds foldable N1 outdoor TV. Looks like it belongs in a museum. This is a minimalistic structural outdoor entertainment display. It sits on the ground. It's a bunch of aluminum and then stands up, unfolds, and you get a 165 165 or a 137 inch LED display with a price tag starting at just shy of $250,000 US. They are available for order now, and delivery will be Q1 of 2024. Todd, is this? I love seeing these. None of my clients will ever buy this. You may have a handful that might entertain this. These are cool to see, but do you think that this type of technology has any real market value, penetration, anything? Or is this, again, just a 0.1 of the 1% that will actually look at this and entertain it?
I think that's where it's developed. Is some rich guy was like, what I really would want? To have my TV come out of the ground and expand up to like 130 inches. And then somebody said, I can help you create that.
We can do that.
He just cared about himself. Like, it's not going to sell. Like, listen, I have an issue selling a whole house to people for $250,000, let alone one single TV. Now, I wouldn't bring it up to my customer. I would be actually embarrassed to go to my customer and be like, hey, how would you like when you're in-ground pool for a TV to pop out as cool as anything, kind of looks like a fan, and then it turns into a TV? And all you need to give me right now is $250,000. That's right, just $250,000. We're done. And then I would see swiftly, I would turn my back for a quick second and my ass would be kicked right out the door. There's that.
There is that. All right, Mark. Typically, I would agree completely with Todd. Now, do I think the technology is cool? I do. Do I think that there is a market for this? Very, very small. That being said, I just got back from Boca Raton, Florida, which is, it's Boca, so we'll leave that there. But sitting at the condo, watching the boats go up and down the intercoastal, there's all the normal 20 to 30 foot, outboards. And then there's a couple mega yachts that always make it up and down the intercoastal heading out to sea. That area, Boca, Miami, there are places where this would sell.
Yeah.
Does this show an opportunity for this to become not affordable, but accessible for a portion of the market?
this TV, a version of this TV has been around for years. They had this one lives above ground and comes out like a sculpture-looking thing. They had one that came out of the ground that was fully buried. I remember, like, probably 5 years ago or more. That was interesting.
Yeah, from Stealth.
No, actually, CC'd. It was a partnership with CC'd and Porsche. Yeah,
never mind.
And Stealth has one too that comes out of the ground or flips up from the deck. I'd be curious to know what the sales of that other one. I think it was $1 million, the first CC version. So I'm curious what they had for sales, because to your point, Matt, there are people out there. There's someone out there buying a $250,000 car. There's someone out there building a $50 million home, buying a $20 million, $50 million yacht. So the money is out there. There is that clientele on the residential side. I also could see this being something maybe on the commercial side. A company has some kind of outdoor area, maybe on the West Coast where it's 24/7, 365 days a year. It's nice weather, and they can have some outdoor auditoriums or something, and this is visible in daylight. So maybe there's a commercial application there as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point. All right, gentlemen, let's wrap it up there. Thank you both so much for joining us. Mark, if people want to connect with you, learn more about Home Theater Advisors, where can they do that?
Best is email mark@hometheateradvisors.com or on Facebook at HT Advisors.
Excellent. Thank you, my friend. Mr. Puma, if people want to connect with you, learn more about the Source Home Theater, where can they do that?
The same as Mark. You can connect with me by email, todd@thesourcehometheater.com. And social media, I really haven't been doing much active on there.
Really? I see you all the time.
Yeah, but it's related to
It's all guitars.
a different market.
It's all guitars.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen, thank you again for joining us. Thank you for listening in. If you'd like to connect with me, you can find me on Twitter at Matt D. Scott and most other social platforms. But more importantly, please visit AVNation.tv, where you'll find this show as well as a wide variety of other shows with all the verticals that we cover. When you visit the website, please take a moment to check out our supporters. We are extremely thankful for their support and ask that you check them out as well. Thanks again for watching. That's all the time we have for this episode of ResiWeek.